Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Smishek's Cousin Bates. Rick Smishek here. Today, we're going to talk more about um, chapter 4 of the book Knowing Bass. The first episode for chapter 4, we talked a little bit about how they hear their ears, their lateral line, and today we're going to talk about a little bit about what they can hear. Okay. In the 60s, the scientists argued that bass must use their lateral line to detect movements in the water. And he wasn't wrong. Subsequent research has proven him correct. Bait fish. We've all seen, well, probably most of us have seen big schools of bait fish, big balls of bait fish in TV shows on, say, like the Discovery Channel. And for a long time, scientists weren't entirely sure how they maintained position in the school, how the school knew which way to move, the individual fish. Well, now we know that they use their lateral lines to keep track of the other fish in the school. And while those movements look, to the naked eye, look instantaneous, they're probably not as instantaneous as what we think, as what we perceive. Bass use their lateral lines for things like detecting food, whether it's the small movements of a minnow, or the movements of, say, a bluegill, or anything else they might want to eat, frogs, whatever. They also use it to detect the charge of an oncoming predator. I mean, nobody wants to get eaten by a northern pike, right? Or if you're a small bass, so like a little fingerling bass, nobody wants to get eaten by their dad, a bigger bass, or their mom, So they can use it to avoid danger and use it to find food, which, if you think about it, I wonder why I didn't think of that before. Why did, if they can use it to find food, they can also use it to detect danger. That just makes sense. Bass, unlike with their sense of smell, bass can determine direction and distance with their lateral line, right? Because first of all, you have pairs of pores along that lateral line, one on the trunk, and you also have two sides to it. Okay. Plus, there's a distance between the end of the lateral line and the beginning. No matter how big the bass is, there's a certain amount of distance there that allows the fish to use the differences, to analyze the differences between what's happening, say, in the middle of the trunk and the beginning, and that lets them determine distance and direction, which is kind of cool. The head region, with its elaborate array of sensors and it's the pattern of it on its head, is more suited to close range analysis. And actually, it can be pretty detailed too, that analysis at close range. The lateral line detection can be as low as 1/10 of a cycle per second, but it's most sensitive between 20 and 80 cycles per second. Now, the inner ear, that's significantly different as far as what it can detect. It's most sensitive between 100 cycles and 200 cycles per second. 100 cycles per second is what we perceive to be like the bass in music. And once you get above 200 cycles per second, they rapidly start to lose sensitivity to increases in those cycles. And by the time you get to 600 cycles per second, bass are essentially deaf. They can't hear anything over that. Okay, I think I've covered all that stuff. So if there's a way, and there must be a way to determine, just say put, like, this is a rattle that goes on. I put them on jigs. You can put them on spinner baits if you want, or buzz baits too. But mostly I just use them on jigs. But if you shake it, you can hear that sound. So how do we determine how many cycles per second? Or the difference between the different blades that we have here, okay? Or the different sizes in the Willow blades or the Colorado blades. There must be a way, but if we could set up a water tank and run these baits through the water tank and determine how many cycles per second, we might have more luck fishing. We might find out that a bass can barely hear something like this. Okay, I don't know if we were or not, but that's potential. Or this could be low enough. The cycles per second on something like this could be low enough that bass can't hear it. Right. So we could theoretically use this information and a test tank to determine which types of things produce the sound in the ranges that bass are most sensitive to. Right. You'd think that lure manufacturers already have that figured out, but maybe they don't. You know, this is something I think I want to check into at some point in the future. And if I do manage to figure that out, well, maybe if I start fishing tournaments, maybe that's something I'll keep to myself. You need all the edge you can get, every edge you can get, every advantage you can get when you're fishing tournaments. So, but if I'm not going to fish tournaments, who cares then? I'd share it with everybody then. Heck, I might even share it if I do fish tournaments. But with that said, this is probably the end for today. And next week we'll get a little more in depth on, or we'll just move on to the next part of the chapter, about how it continues this part of the discussion. I find this sort of stuff pretty fascinating, and although if it gets too technical, then I get bored, and nobody wants to be bored. So, with all this said, if you liked what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't, please do. The like button helps get it shown to other people in the sidebar of their suggested videos. Sharing does the same thing, and helps get it there, and it also helps, depending on who you're sharing it with, helps get them get exposure to it. So, the channel is gaining time watched pretty quickly, which, thank you everybody. Thank you for every subscription. So we're getting there. We're slowly I'm being persistent. I'm slowly getting towards my goal, which is all you can ask for, really, right? So, so with all that said, until next time, folks, tight lines, calm waters, and God bless.